Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. Good morning. Well, depending on what time you watch this and where you are in the world, it's morning for me right now. Another day of spoiler season, and it starts off with a bang with a very exciting new card with the Millennium Calendar. Now, this one was kind of alluded to from Mark Rosewater's teasers. If you haven't seen the episode, make sure you check it out. That being said, it is really cool to see it actually play out and how this works. A legendary artifact for 1 mana, and I should say thank you MTG Goldfish for the translated version of this. Whenever one or more permanents become untapped during your untapped step, put that many time counters on the Millennium Calendar. Now, with that, I will mention that I believe, and correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on this, you can't, just actually react to things in the untapped step. There's, no priority given the untapped step, so you couldn't, have 2 Alphedo Alchemists in play, or I should say an Alphedo Alchemist and something else that can untap something, and you just have them untap each other, like Vizier or Tumbling Sands. You can't just have 2 permanents untap each other infinitely. That's the first thing I thought of, and then, yeah, I believe the untap step does not allow you to do that, but correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong on that, judges. Anyways, pay 2 tap, double the number of time counters on the Millennium Calendar. So, yeah, that is your way to get there quite quickly. And where do we need to get? Well, when there are 1,000 or more time counters on the Millennium Calendar, sacrifice it, and each opponent loses 1,000 life. Okay. Now, basically, each opponent loses the game. Now, does that actually make them lose the game? No, technically not. Yeah, you could be playing a certain deck that can gain a good amount of life. That's a ton of life. Like a Fire Song and Sunspeaker deck might be able to get there, maybe. It would take quite a while. Or, an infinite life game deck, yes, obviously could get above that. But most of the time, this is, hey, you win. So this is kind of like Helix Pinnacle-ish in the way that it wins. That being said, Helix Pinnacle obviously allows you to just dump mana into that. And once you get to 100 counters on your upkeep, you basically win. The big difference between that and this is quite a bit riskier because this doesn't have any kind of protection. It's not indestructible. It doesn't have Shroud. It doesn't have Hexproof. It doesn't even have Ward. This is just an artifact that is just sitting there, and your opponents can all see just how much time is on the Millennium Calendar. So, yeah, if you get anywhere near that, or, if you get anywhere near 500, I should say, because you basically, would double and get to 1,000, your opponents are going to either take that out or try to take you out. So, you kind of got to be sneaky with this, I think, where you would need to have a deck that can very, very quickly speed things up. So, you might only be at 100 counters on it, but then all of a sudden, you can double it again, and then you are there. I mean, I guess I probably just overdid that. Double. No. I mean, I guess you'd be close. So anyways, yes, math with this, but also, I think you would need to find a way to essentially get there pretty quickly. And again, with this, it's not an upkeep trigger, which I guess is one benefit over this, compared to something like a Helix Pinnacle. You have to wait to the upkeep. It's just once this has 1,000 or more time counters on it, this immediately happens. So your opponents get taken out. So yeah, this is not for every single kind of a deck out there, obviously. There are only so many decks that could really pull this off. I mean, just realistically, later in the game, if you have, say, 10 lands in play and maybe a couple creatures, you're putting 13, 14, 15 counters on this, on the untap step, maybe. And with that, yeah, I mean, then you double it and then double it again. So I guess technically any deck could pull it off, but again, I do think you need a kind of a deck that can really kind of surprise opponents, or at least go so quick that there's no way they can stop it. I mean, obviously without removal, but you can have ways to protect it too. So it's a very interesting card in a really cool new alternative, and I'm going to say alternative win condition, because it basically is, obviously it's not guaranteed to take your opponents out, but most of the time it is. Again, a very exciting card. Let's talk about some cards that pair with it, and then some commanders, including maybe one that I absolutely love and adore that might want to utilize this card, though I doubt it's going to be budget friendly. Again, this is a mythic, so we shall see. First up, let's talk about Doubling Season. Now, this is a card that, when I'm doing a quick take on commanders, usually it's like, hey, does that commander have anything to do about doubling counters or doubling creature tokens? Yeah, or any kind of tokens, essentially. Yeah, cool, it needs to be brought up, but it's also a very obvious one, because this one is, well, a $40 card for a reason. It's been reprinted a lot recently, and it's still that expensive because it's an incredibly powerful effect. Essentially, what it does is, hey, if you'd create a token, you create double tokens. If you put a counter on something, you know, double that as well. So what you're going to be doing essentially is you're going to be utilizing this with you know, your new Millennium Calendar, and now instead of just, well, getting, again, let's just say the answer is 15. Let's say you get 15 counters on the untap, right? Instead, you'd get 30. Obviously, that speeds things up quite a bit, but the thing that speeds it up even more is that, again, that activation, pay to tap, double the counters on it, now that basically quadruples it instead. So if you were to go from, you know, let's say you start with 0, you got those 15 untap permanents, they untap, you get 30 on it instead, then you pay 2, you tap, and you quadruple it. That would, what? I mean, you would go to 60, now you go to 120 then. So yeah, that can really speed things up, obviously, and get you there quite quickly with just a couple of activations. So yeah, any kind of a doubling effect with counters like this one, yes, of course, could work very well with this brand new alternative win condition. And actually, when it comes to alternative win condition, you could kind of just skip the actual getting to 1,000 counters, because you can just take your opponents out with, well, all will be 1, which works fantastically with this. Enchantment for 5 mana. When you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, all be 1 deals that much damage target opponent, creature opponent controls, or planeswalker opponent controls. So basically, hey, yeah, ping an opponent in the face for a ton. Again, when you are getting those counters on it with the untap, again, assuming, you know, 15 or whatever it is, at whatever point, I guess typically you'd probably be playing it. That's kind of the thing, because you can get it down earlier in the game, but if you get it down earlier, it's kind of a bigger target. Your opponents kind of see what's happening, and you're not really getting that many counters on it, but is it really that big of a threat that early? I mean, if you got the mana for it, you might as well put it out, I guess, if it's not like your main alternative win condition. But yeah, this one essentially says, you know what? No, I've got 30 counters on this already. I'll pay 2, tap, I'll double it, and then all of a sudden I'm dealing 30 damage to opponent's face. Yeah, that can be a really good way to take opponents out quite quickly again, and kind of skipping around the having to get to 1,000. So if you already have like a counter-based synergy that already works with all be 1, yeah, make sure you're considering that one as well. And yeah, it's just kind of a way to kind of get around the getting to 1,000. But I guess the getting to 1,000 is kind of a fun part about that card. Now, when it comes to commanders that might want to consider this card, one of the first ones that came to my mind is, well, Vorinclex Monstrous Raider, which is kind of like a doubling season in itself in a way, but also a halving season? Nah, okay. Anyway, 6/6 Trample Haste Phyrexian Praetor for 6 mana. If you would put 1 or more counters on if you would put 1 or more counters on a permanent player, put twice that many of each of those counters on a permanent player instead. If an opponent would put 1 or more counters on a permanent player, they put half that many instead, rounded down. So basically, your opponents don't get counters or get a lot less counters, and you get double the counters. So essentially, again, you are doubling up the effectiveness of the Millennium Calendar on that untap, and then also, of course, on that paid double. So yeah, this could get out of hand really, really quickly with this kind of a commander. There's already, you know, other ways to win with this kind of a commander, like, you know, poison and that kind of stuff. I guess I just said poison, but it's like infect, poison counters. You know what I mean? Toxic is the new one too. So yes, you could have like kind of like a fun, like all these different kind of alternative win conditions with Vorinclex, I'm sure, like Darksteel Reactor in there as well. I'm sure there's decks out there that utilize that. So yeah, I mean, there's another one to throw in that kind of a deck. Moving on, Tekuthal Inquiry Dominus, a commander that absolutely loves proliferating. Yet another Phyrexian, a 3/5 flyer. If you proliferate twice instead. You can also make it indestructible by moving counters. Cool. So basically, this is, hey, you know what? Proliferate here, proliferate there, proliferate everywhere. And when you do that, well, you can get more and more counters, obviously, on your Millennium Calendar, which makes that doubling effect much more effective. So yes, another kind of a commander to consider with this. So ones that can double up counters, ones that give you extra counters, definitely ones to consider, but also ones like, well, okay, I just actually scrolled too far. Ones like, ignore that. Ones like Garth One-Eye. This one is a commander that I actually brought up on a recent episode for another card, talking about how I wish that card would be budget, and we'll see if it is, but I don't think it's gonna be. This one, I definitely don't think it's gonna be budget, unfortunately, but you never know. If you have a deck that has a lot of untap effects, like my Garth deck, yeah, this can be crazy good, because again, the thing with this card is that your opponents are generally gonna see it coming, right? They're gonna see it coming that, hey, oh yeah, this player's got this Millennium counter out, it's got like 100 counters on it, let's deal with that or that player. With this Garth deck, I've got an absurd amount of ways to untap permanents, and by doing that, well, I can actually just untap it, put mana into it, untap it, put mana into it, untap it, put mana into it, and double it, double it, double it, double it, and things just go skyrocketing quite quickly to the point where, again, you can hit 1,000, and once you do that again, unlike Helix Pinnacle, where you're trying to get over 100 counters and then just sit there and hope it stays, which it has Shroud. I think it has Shroud. So it would stay. This one instead does not have any kind of protection, but once you hit that 1,000, it is game over for your opponents, typically. So again, if you've got a commander that has a tap effect like this one, Shurikai, whatever it is, and you've got a lot of untap effects, and you're looking for a spicy card to kind of add to that deck, definitely consider this brand new exciting alternative win condition. But now this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on this card. Well, hey, yeah, exciting, spicy, new alternative win condition that, well, I'd love to hear from you and hear what your thoughts on this card is. Do you think this is a cool alternative win condition? Do you think it's one that'd be really hard to pull off? Do you think it'd be one that'd be funny if you're on the other end of it and you're like, I've got 2,000 life, so I'm fine? And do you think, you know, how difficult is this one to pull off in most circumstances? What kind of commanders, what kind of decks would you consider with it? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, make sure you're staying tuned to this channel for more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.